Airborne infantry were never meant to fight fair. Their mission was simple in theory and brutal in execution. Arrive where the enemy least expected them. They descended from the night sky, often miles behind enemy lines, with no guarantee of landing together or surviving the jump. During World War II, American airborne units became the embodiment of controlled chaos. Divisions such as the 82nd and 101st Airborne were trained for one purpose above all others: seize critical ground before the main army arrived. Bridges, crossroads, artillery positions. If it mattered, paratroopers were expected to take it first. The reality was unforgiving. They jumped at night under enemy fire, burdened with up to 100 pounds of equipment. Navigation errors, anti-aircraft fire, and high winds scattered them across vast areas. On D-Day, many landed miles from their assigned drop zones. Officers were killed within minutes. Leadership often fell to whoever remained standing. Yet that very chaos became their strength. In Normandy, German commanders reported fighting forces far larger than actually existed because scattered paratroopers attacked from multiple directions at once. The confusion delayed counterattacks at a decisive moment and bought precious time for the beach landings. Airborne infantry accepted risks few others faced. If surrounded, retreat was rarely possible. Resupply depended on gliders or airdrops that could miss their targets or fall into enemy hands. Casualty rates were high. Still, from Sicily to Normandy to the Netherlands, during Operation Market Garden, airborne troops shaped campaigns in their opening hours. They were not meant to hold ground forever. They were meant to break the enemy's balance at the moment it mattered most. Ranger infantry existed for missions where hesitation meant failure. They were not designed to hold defensive lines or grind forward slowly. Rangers were built to strike fast, hit hard, and disrupt before the enemy could react. Modeled initially after British commandos, U.S. Rangers quickly forged their own reputation. Small, highly trained units were repeatedly assigned objectives considered too dangerous for conventional infantry. Their preparation reflected that reality. Amphibious landings, cliff assaults, night raids, live-fire exercises standards were unforgiving. Only those who endured exhaustion and extreme pressure remained. Their role was unmistakable at Pointe du Hoc on D-Day. Tasked with neutralizing German artillery threatening Omaha Beach, Rangers scaled sheer cliffs under fire using ropes and ladders. At the top, they discovered the guns had been moved inland. Rather than withdraw, they hunted them down, destroyed them, and held their exposed position for 2 days against determined counterattacks. Rangers also operated deep behind enemy lines, raiding infrastructure and command positions. Their presence forced the enemy to divert resources to guard rear areas. Casualties were often severe. Missions allowed little room for error, yet their impact was disproportionate to their numbers. A single Ranger battalion could disrupt entire defensive systems before a larger invasion fully unfolded. U.S. Marine Corps infantry fought a different war from most American forces. While the Army advanced across continents, Marines assaulted some of the most heavily fortified terrain on Earth's small Pacific islands. Transformed into defensive strongholds, Marines specialized in amphibious assault, landing directly into enemy fire with little cover and no easy retreat. Ditches were mined. Reefs obstructed landing craft. Machine guns were carefully positioned. The first waves understood that survival depended on momentum. Once ashore, combat became intimate and relentless. Jungle paths, volcanic ridges, caves, and bunkers turned battles into close-quarter struggles. Marine squads emphasized flexibility and firepower, organized into fire teams capable of maneuvering even when leaders fell. On Iwo Jima, Marines confronted a vast underground defensive network. Over a month of fighting, American forces suffered more than 26,000 casualties. Entire companies were shattered and rebuilt. Progress was measured in yards, not miles. Victory required clearing caves and bunkers one by one. Marine infantry defined modern amphibious warfare through discipline, initiative, and relentless pressure, a cost among the highest of the war. Standard U.S. Army infantry formed the backbone of America's ground war. While elite units captured attention, it was the ordinary rifleman, the dogface, who carried the war forward day after day. They fought in hedgerows in Normandy, forests in the Ardennes, mountains in Italy, and plains across Europe and the Pacific. They advanced on foot, under artillery and machine gun fire. Unlike airborne troops or rangers, they did not arrive by surprise. They stayed. They absorbed the enemy's main strength. Infantry units bore a disproportionate share of casualties because they were constantly in contact with the enemy. Replacement soldiers often arrived with minimal combat experience, forced to learn under fire. Combat became a cycle of attack, loss, rebuilding, and advance. Their success was not dramatic. It was persistent. Through mud, cold, fear, and exhaustion, they held ground and pushed forward. Without them, no landing could be secured, no breakthrough exploited, and no campaign sustained. Armored infantry were created to solve a critical problem. Tanks could break through enemy lines. But without infantry, they could not hold what they captured. Armored infantry moved with tanks, protecting them and fighting where armor alone could not. Transported in half-tracks, they advanced with speed across open terrain, under fire. They dismounted to clear anti-tank teams, secure towns, and guard vulnerable flanks. Tanks relied on them for protection in close terrain. Armored infantry relied on tanks for heavy firepower. When coordination worked, advances were rapid and devastating. When it failed, losses mounted quickly. During the rapid drive across France in 1944 and into Germany, armored infantry ensured that breakthroughs became sustained advances rather than temporary gains. Glider infantry faced one of the most dangerous entries into combat. They did not parachute. They rode fragile wooden gliders towed behind aircraft, released over enemy territory, and aimed at small landing zones. They carried heavier weapons than parachutist mortar, anti-tank guns, even small vehicles, but landing offered no second chances. Crashes into trees or stone walls were common. Casualties often occurred before a shot was fired. Despite this, glider troops reinforced airborne forces with critical firepower in Normandy, southern France, and the Netherlands. Once landed, they fought as regular infantry, with no easy extraction. Their missions demanded precision and extraordinary courage. Mountain infantry were trained for terrain where conventional forces struggled. Steep slopes, snow-covered ridges, and narrow passes demanded specialized skill. The 10th Mountain Division trained in harsh alpine conditions before deploying to Italy. In early 1945, they attacked heavily fortified German positions in the Apennines. At Riva Ridge, soldiers climbed icy cliffs at night, carrying weapons by hand. Their assault broke defensive lines that had resisted months of bombardment. Mountain infantry endured frostbite, exhaustion, and exposure alongside enemy fire. Evacuating wounded required hours of manual effort, yet their breakthroughs reopened stalled fronts and accelerated the Allied advance. African American infantry units fought a war abroad and discrimination at home. Serving in a segregated military, they faced doubt, limited resources, and unequal treatment. The 92nd Infantry Division fought in Italy under difficult conditions. Failures were magnified, successes minimized. Yet these soldiers advanced through mountainous terrain, defended exposed positions, and endured heavy combat. By war's end, African American infantry units had captured thousands of prisoners and earned numerous decorations. Their service challenged entrenched prejudices and contributed to the eventual desegregation of the U.S. Armed Forces. Infantry Japanese American soldiers of the 100th Infantry Battalion and the 442nd Regimental Combat Team served while many of their families were confined in internment camps at home. Fighting in Italy and France, they earned a reputation for discipline and determination. In the Vosges Mountains in 1944, they rescued a surrounded American unit in an operation that came at tremendous cost. By the war's end, the 442nd became one of the most decorated units in U.S. military history for its size and length of service. Their legacy extended beyond medals. They forced the nation to confront the contradiction between democratic ideals and wartime prejudice. In World War II, these infantry formations, Ranger, Marine, Standard Army, Armored, Glider, Mountain, African American, and Nisei demonstrated that battles are shaped not only by strategy and technology, but by endurance, adaptability, and the resolve of soldiers on the ground.